It began like a whisper in the night. Ordinary neighborhoods, ordinary homes, people locking their doors, never realizing a monster was already inside their world. Wichita, Kansas, 1974. A city known for calm streets, small-town kindness, and the feeling that nothing truly terrible could happen there. Until one cold January morning shattered that illusion forever. When police entered the Otero family home, they were met with silence. A silence so heavy it pressed against their chests. Inside, they found a scene that would haunt every officer who walked through that door. For members of the Otero family, father, mother, son, and daughter, murdered with calculated precision. No sign of forced entry. No robbery. Just brutality, deliberate, methodical, almost ritualistic. The killer had left no real clues. No fingerprints, no witnesses. Only a city drowning in fear and confusion. And then, the letters began. Typed words sent to the press and the police. The writer claimed responsibility for the murders, taunting investigators, describing details only the killer could know. He signed it with 3 chilling letters: BTK, asterisk asterisk, bind, torture, kill. It wasn't just a name. It was a promise. Over the next 3 decades, Dennis Rader, the man behind the mask, would weave himself into Wichita's everyday life. A church president, a family man, a city compliance officer who enforced local rules with quiet authority, all while secretly hunting, planning, and killing with the patience of a spider. No one suspected. No one imagined the polite man next door was the very monster they feared. This is the story of the BTK killer, how he hid in plain sight, played games with police, and finally, after 31 years, was caught by the smallest mistake in the digital age. A case that exposed not just the darkness of one man's mind, but how evil can blend perfectly into the face of normal life. After the Otero murders, Wichita tried to heal. People buried their dead and prayed the horror was over. But the man calling himself BTK was only getting started. He had felt power that day, complete control. It wasn't about money or revenge or anger. It was about dominance, about watching life fade from his victim's eyes and knowing he decided when it would end. For months, there was silence. Then, in April 1974, another young woman vanished, Catherine Bright. Her brother came home unexpectedly and found himself in a nightmare. The attacker had already tied up Catherine, and when her brother fought back, the man shot him twice and stabbed Catherine to death before fleeing. The brother survived, barely, but could only describe a calm, average-looking man who spoke softly, even as he killed. That quiet cruelty became BTK's signature. He wasn't a madman raging out of control. He was cold, polite, deliberate, and that made him even more terrifying. Years passed. The letters stopped. People began to hope it had been a one-time horror, that maybe the killer had died or moved away. But in 1977, BTK returned. He murdered Shirley Vian, a mother of 3, after forcing her children into a bathroom and locking them inside. Later that same year, he struck again, Nancy Fox, a young woman living alone. He stalked her for weeks, studied her habits, her schedule, even her windows. When police found her body, BTK had left another message, mocking investigators, almost daring them to catch him. The city was frozen in fear. Women slept with guns. Hardware stores sold out of locks, alarms, and dogs. Wichita was no longer safe. BTK watched the panic he created. He collected newspaper clippings, drove by crime scenes, listened to police scanners. It thrilled him to know he controlled the heartbeat of an entire city. By the 1980s, BTK became a legend of terror, a ghost that never appeared twice in the same place. He killed Maureen Hedge, a woman who lived just a few houses away from him. He strangled her, took her body to a church where he was a respected member, posed her for photographs, and then dumped her in a ditch like nothing had happened. The next morning, he went to work as usual. He was a father, a husband, a scout leader, and a murderer hiding in plain sight. Every few years, another body surfaced, Vicki Wegerle, Dolores Davis, and then silence again. By the early 1990s, the trail had gone cold. The public thought BTK was gone, perhaps dead. Detectives retired, files gathered dust, and the nightmare faded into urban legend. But for Dennis Rader, BTK was never gone. He was simply waiting for his next audience. For decades, BTK haunted Wichita like a shadow that refused to fade. Detectives came and went, files grew thicker, leads grew colder. There were theories, whispers, and even false confessions, but no arrests. The killer who had strangled, mocked, and vanished into suburbia seemed to have simply evaporated. By the early 2000s, BTK had become a dark legend. A story parents whispered to scare their children, a name detectives muttered with frustration. But in one quiet Kansas neighborhood, the legend was still alive, mowing his lawn, working at City Hall, and leading church meetings. Dennis Rader, the man who was BTK, had grown older, calmer, and perhaps careless. In 2004, Wichita marked the 30th anniversary of the first BTK killings. Local newspapers published retrospectives, reminding everyone of the horror that had once consumed the city. And perhaps that was all it took, because BTK decided to come back. After 25 years of silence, he sent a letter to a local TV station. Inside were photos of one of his victims and a photocopy of her driver's license, items stolen from the crime scene. He signed it the way he always had: BTK, bind, torture, kill, asterisk asterisk. Investigators were stunned. The monster from the 70s was back, taunting them again. And this time, they had new tools. Forensic science had evolved, DNA testing was advanced, and computers could analyze patterns faster than ever. Over the next few months, BTK sent more letters, poems, packages, and cryptic messages. He enjoyed the game, feeding the police just enough to keep them interested but not enough to reveal his identity. But arrogance was his downfall. In one of his final communications, BTK asked detectives if they could trace a floppy disk. If he sent one, would it be safe? The police, desperate to keep him talking, replied publicly through a newspaper ad, asterisk, "It will be safe," asterisk. Rader took the bait. When the disk arrived, forensic experts recovered hidden metadata. It contained the name, Dennis, and was linked to a computer from Christ Lutheran Church. Investigators moved quickly, cross-referencing the name with church records. One name stood out: Dennis Rader, a city compliance officer with a wife, children, and no criminal record. To confirm the link, detectives secretly obtained a DNA sample from his daughter's medical records. It was a perfect match to the genetic material found at BTK's crime scenes. On February 25, 2005, Dennis Rader was arrested. He looked like any middle-aged man, polite, calm, even cooperative. But inside that quiet man was the same darkness that had terrorized Wichita for 30 years. When questioned, he didn't deny it. Instead, he described his murders in chilling, clinical detail, like a man explaining how to fix a machine. He spoke of his projects, hits, and how he prepared for each one with precision. He showed no remorse, only pride in his methodical work. In court, Rader pleaded guilty to 10 counts of first-degree murder. His confession shocked the world. This wasn't a monster lurking in shadows. It was a family man, a scout leader, a church president, someone no one suspected. During sentencing, Rader gave a bizarre, emotionless statement recounting each murder step by step. Even the judge struggled to contain his disgust. The families of the victims wept, hearing the details they'd feared for decades. Dennis Rader was sentenced to 10 consecutive life terms in prison. He will die behind bars, but for many, justice felt incomplete. How could a man live two lives so perfectly? One as a husband, the other as a serial killer. BTK's story is more than just one of horror. It's a reminder that evil doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes, it looks like the man next door. The quiet one who waves when you drive by. Even today, Rader writes letters from prison, still calling himself BTK. He enjoys attention, interviews, and analysis. The killer may be locked away, but his hunger for control, for being remembered, remains. And that's the real fear he left behind. Because monsters, like BTK, don't just kill people. They infect the mind, reminding us that even in the safest places, the darkest evil can wear the most ordinary face.